Are you out of your mind?
Queerbaiting in television and movies is a purposeful practice on the part of the creators of encoding queer subtext into a show or movie with the hope of drawing in queer viewership with no intention of acknowledging or making explicit this subtext. The following video was designed as a semester-long project for a Gender and Media Studies course, with the goal to introduce an audience to a critical concept, though they may be unfamiliar with academic jargon or theory. I was a student in this course and found that the assignment provided an opportunity to exercise argumentation skills and become familiar with video editing software. The course focused on analyzing visual media, and so the assignment invited students to incorporate visuals into their own argument. The instructor structured the workload by breaking it down into several steps, including a proposal, annotated bibliography, storyboarding, and multiple drafts. This assignment and the process of creating it was productive for me, and I see it being a productive model in future courses that I'll teach. The following video is my final project for the semester and provides a model for future projects of this kind. This queerbaiting takes place for commercial reasons, such as a desire for queer viewership and accompanying advertising revenue, and social reasons, such as our culture's pervasive homophobia, and has largely negative effects on fans and viewers, especially those who identify as queer. Nailing down an exact definition of queerbaiting is a difficult endeavor since, as media and queer studies scholar Julie Russo argues, rather ephemeral concepts like authorial intention, viewer decoding, and contemporary socio-political context can all affect whether or not a particular piece of film or television contains queer readings. However, some common characteristics of queerbaiting include the presence of romantically or sexually coded same-sex relationships, paired with homophobic humor, stereotypes or an altogether lack of queer people, and denial on the part of the creators of any such queer subtext. One television show that is regularly touted as one of the more egregious perpetrators of queerbaiting on television is Supernatural. Supernatural is a sci-fi horror show starring two brothers, Sam and Dean, crisscrossing America fighting monsters and demons, often with the assistance of their friend the angel Castiel. Ever since Castiel's introduction in Season 4, fans have interpreted the subtext of his and Dean's relationship as romantic, giving them the portmanteau d'Estiel and creating an abundance of fan works celebrating the characters and their relationship. Although queerbaiting has arguably been going on for some time in popular literature and film, it has only recently been publicly named and acknowledged. This acknowledgement has come largely from fans, who have created a variety of works on the subject, in which several criteria for determining the existence of queerbaiting crop up with regularity. Taking Supernatural as our example, let's walk through the various criteria for queerbaiting. The first criteria of queerbaiting is the no homo, or common situation in which queerness is introduced into the text, only to be played off as a joke or otherwise be forced back into the heteronormative mold.
Why's it always gotta be me that makes the call, huh? It's not like Cash lives in my ass. The dude's busy. Cash, get out of my ass.
I was never in your...
The second criteria is the so-called hetero test, coined by Tumblr user Snuggy Demon, wherein if you replaced the same-sex couple in question with a heterosexual couple, it would immediately, unquestionably, seem like a romance.
I was there. Where were you?
The third criteria is a lack of queer representation in the show or movie, or the inclusion of a secondary, non-threatening, and/or stereotyped queer character.
It's good to be queen.
The last criteria is denial on the part of the creators and actors in the show. Or similarly, not an actual denial, but avoidance of the question altogether, since to explicitly state that the queer subtext doesn't exist would undermine the marketing strategy that is queerbaiting. Some of the creatives and actors involved in shows accused of queerbaiting tend to get defensive when presented with queer readings of their texts.
Why are they standing so close together?
Subtext.
Why don't you take a sub-step back there, ladies?
They can get annoyed and angry, becoming rude and dismissive of what many fans consider to be valid queer readings of the texts. Usually, the combination of factors that really confirms the show as queerbaiting is that of this denial of queer subtext with a simultaneous acknowledgement or playing with of this exact subtext in the show. So, the question of what is not queerbaiting is difficult. In many cases, it comes down to personal opinions and interpretations of the creative text. Overall, if the show is generally friendly to queer representation, for instance by including visibly queer characters and relationships, avoiding homophobic jokes, and by respecting viewers' queer readings as valid, then there is a good chance that the show in question is not queerbaiting. So, why does queerbaiting occur? It happens because it draws in queer viewership by the inclusion of enticing subtext, but it does so without actually making the characters in question canonically queer, which could lead to a loss of conservative and/or homophobic viewership. Additionally, some queerbaiting may be a holdover from past years in which explicit inclusion of queer characters was simply not allowed in mainstream television and films. Queer subtext in older films and shows may more easily be interpreted as just that, queer subtext that could be read by hopeful queer viewers, or even placed there purposefully as a subtle subversion of current sexual norms. However, in modern film and TV, where a violently homophobic society is no longer an excuse for the neglect of visualizing queers and queer romance and love on screen, it becomes harder to accept what seems to some as obvious queer subtext as anything less than queerbaiting. So, how does the practice of queerbaiting affect viewers? Queerbaiting manages to draw in queer viewers because of an astonishing lack of queer visibility in TV and movies. Hoping to find a reflection of their own lives on screen, queer viewers take pleasure in seeing relationships that can be read as queer and loyally watch these shows. However, these fans are virtually never rewarded for their viewership, but, as Julie Russo argues, punished for reading too much into the show or film, told by creatives and actors and even other fans that their queer decoding of the work is wrong, gross, or morally suspect. Scholars and fans have argued that the lack of images of queer people in pop culture, and perhaps worse, these queerbaiting images that appear queer but are then relentlessly reinserted into a heteronormative landscape, often being treated as nothing more than the punchline to a joke, invalidate queer fans' identities, which can lead to low self-esteem and depression. One fan even said that queerbaiting is even more painful than erasure because it dangles fair and equal representation in front of your eyes and then snatches it away, and then it tells you that the whole thing was in your imagination all along. So, how could this problem of queerbaiting be fixed? The main issue is visibility. If characters coded as queer are allowed to actually be visibly portrayed as queer, then the problem of queerbaiting would disappear. Indeed, just including visible, respectful representations of queer characters, even without changing or canonizing existing queer-coded relationships, would go a long way towards ameliorating the problem. According to scholars Fatala and Norton, fans are already working to eliminate the power of queerbaiting by calling it out on social media, leading to coverage and attention to the issue by other fans and allies, and even some mainstream media sources. Additionally, fans take queerbaiting texts and subvert their capitalist intentions by creating and distributing for free fan works inspired by these texts that celebrate their queer readings rather than bury or deny them. In the end, what queer fans and viewers call for is not so very much. Stop teasing them with queer relationships and please, just let them kiss already.